Okay, Roxy, I went ahead and started the recording, so if you want to go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. We welcome everybody today to our webinar in Developing Parent Leaders for a National Voice. My name is Roxy Foster, and I am employed with Minnesota Communities Caring for Children and facilitating this webinar for the National Circle of Parents group across the nation. And we're going to do some introductions to our individual presenters before they do each of their section. But we're happy to welcome the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds. And the National Alliance has two programs that they're doing that is really enhancing the capacity of the parent voice. We'll first hear from the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council, and then the Birth Parent National Network. And the third group we'll hear from is Community Organizing and Family Issues, which are really focused on organizing at the grassroots and allowing the parent voice to be heard. I'm going to turn it over to Barb Sorm right now, who's going to give you some kind of nuts and bolts of the webinar, so you know when to raise your hand and that sort of thing. So Barb?
Hi again, this is Barb, and hopefully most people have attended a webinar before. Very simple. On your screen, you should have a little panel. You've all entered in mute mode, and if you have a question, you should see a little hand icon. You can click on that, and I will see if you have raised your hand, and then we will go ahead and unmute you so you can ask your question. During the presentation, the different presenters are going to have a time for question and answer, and you can also type in questions in the spot on that little screen. And I will go ahead and I will see those questions and go ahead and read them for the presenters, and they will address that. I think that's about it. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put them in the question box, or go ahead and raise. Let's practice. If you could click on your hand to raise your hand, so we can just see that, yep, people are raising your hand. Great. Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to lower the hands, and if you're on the phone, Kate, are you on? If they're on the phone, I'm not sure how questions work with that.
Yes, if you've joined by phone, we're actually not able to.
We aren't.
Unmute you. Yes.
Okay, so that's unfortunate by phone, but we're glad you've joined us for today. That's it. I'm going to turn it back to you, Roxy.
Okay, can we get a full screen on the PowerPoint, Barb?
You aren't seeing it?
I'm not seeing a full screen, and then I need to get the bios up for.
Okay, it is on full screen.
Okay, maybe it's me.
And?
Yeah, it's probably me.
Okay.
I'm sorry, everybody. Okay, well, we're going to start out today with the National Alliance and Children's Trust Fund and their work that they're doing with parent leaders. With three presenters. So if you go down to Martha, we'll introduce Martha first. Martha Reeder is a senior associate with the National Alliance of Children's Prevention Fund. Martha is the Alliance liaison to the National Alliance Parent Partnership Council, so she keeps everything together. Before her work with the Alliance, Martha served as an early childhood comprehensive systems coordinator for the state of Arkansas. So we're really happy to have Martha. And next we have, let's scroll up, Melissa Perry. And Melissa is a highly respected parent leader in both local, state, and national. She is a parent mentor with Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee. She also works with Healthy Families in Nashville, and also is a member of the Birth Parent National Network. what Martha and or what the parent leaders have in common is that they've all done the community cafes, which is really a great opportunity to get community input. And also, Melissa is a certified trained for protective factor training. And then we have Cara, and Cara lives in Auburn, New York, with her 2 children and her husband. She has been host to community cafes, and especially around the needs of children with special needs. Cara is also an Alliance certified trainer with protective factors. So we're very happy to have you all on, and we'll give you the stage.
And you should have received, prior to this broadcast, you should have received handouts which have the bios in it and also copies of the slides that will be used today.
Alrighty, Martha, are you starting out?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you this afternoon and to share about the work that the Alliance is doing with our parent groups. So let's go to the next slide. And you can actually pass over to the next slide since Roxy just introduced me. I am a senior associate with the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds. And the Alliance, can we go to the next slide? The Alliance really is the membership organization for children's trust funds across the country. And we provide training and technical assistance, peer consulting, and basically whatever we can to support children's trust funds to link with each other and to have a greater impact in the way that we do our work. Let's look at the next slide. As we have in our mission, everything in our mission really includes parent voices. It's important to every aspect of our mission. And that mission is threefold. First of all, to make sure that children's trust funds across the country are strong and effective. And as we link hands to share the best strategies, policies, and the best practices that will help prevent child maltreatment. And secondly, the next slide, we are committed as a membership organization to be very innovative, to initiate and engage in national efforts that strengthen families and help prevent child abuse and neglect. And then the last piece of our mission is really to collectively promote and support the creation of the kinds of infrastructure that will allow children and families to live in safe, stable, and nurturing environments. This is very important, all of these things to us. The next slide talks about our strategic plan and the commitment to support the parent groups, the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council and the Birth Parent National Network, and parent voices is really threaded throughout the entire strategic plan that we have, which we have been working on together in the last several months. Basically, that we leverage the voices of our Alliance team, state children's trust and prevention funds, and parents so that we can create and guide positive changes in policies and practices across the country. So we have two primary functioning parent bodies. Can we go to the next slide? And those are the Alliance's National Parent Partnership Council, which I'm going to introduce some of our members of the council in a minute. And we also have the Birth Parent National Network. And my colleague Meryl Levine will be explaining and sharing with you, and two of the outstanding parents from the Birth Parent National Network will also be sharing with you. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them later on in our webinar today. So if we can go just to the next slide, I'll give you a few introductory tips about the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council. We formed the council in 2008 just to be sure that we could benefit from the voices and perspectives of parents in the work that we're doing. It's that whole idea of not doing to, but doing with parents, and the National Parent Partnership Council is closely aligned with the Alliance Board and membership. The council members themselves are nominated by Children's Trust Fund staff and leadership, and they're interviewed by our current council members. We have a board liaison that meets with us monthly on our monthly networking calls. Next slide, please. Our members of the council report monthly on all of their activities, and there are so many of them. They are involved in national, state, and community activities, and they share that with each other and with the Alliance Board, and the board reciprocates about matters they are considering that they would like input from the council about. The Alliance Board also supports the council to attend the Alliance annual membership meeting every year, and I think both Kara and Melissa are going to be sharing with you some things about that happened in our recent meeting in St. Paul. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Kara Georgi, who is the co-chair of our council, and she is from the fine state of New York. She has worked with a major initiative there to nurture community cafes across their state, and she is a great asset to this work. So Kara, I'd like to turn it over to you now.
Thanks so much, Martha. Good afternoon, everyone. If I could have the next slide. I love being a part of the AMPPC for so many reasons. It's like finally finding your home and your niche of a group of people where you can all work together for a common cause and something that you feel so passionately about. One of the things that I love for our group is that we really get to actively advise the Alliance on action planning and developing parent partnerships. When we met together this last fall in St. Paul, we were able to go to the meeting site, and we get there a few days before the Alliance actually starts their meeting just for our group to meet. But what was really special about this past year was that we were able to invite our board chair and the Alliance executive director to launch our meeting. It was so powerful to have them in the room, to be able to hear some of their thoughts, to share some of the things that we were going to be working on, and really have it feel like a true partnership was happening and developing right there in the room with us. And the best part is that even after their time slot, they stayed there extra to really kind of work with us a little bit longer, and they made a point of checking in on us each day. So it really truly was a time of being together and celebrating all the great things that we are doing and all the great future success. One of the other things that we really work on is trying to build that knowledge of what is a parent partnership. How do we make it promising? How do we find creative ways to do it? Because we all know parents are busy people. How do we help them share in meaningful and authentic ways? And it's not just, oh yeah, we had a parent look at this, or oh yeah, we asked a parent a question. The Alliance really does touch base with us, and I think one of the cool things we did in our meeting was when the board got together for lunch, we got to come in and we did what we call our boom intros. And we got to share with the board what our roles are beyond the work that we're doing for the Alliance. We got to share who we are in the everyday moments. And it was a real great way for them to see us, not only in our leadership roles, but just as the parents and the people that we are in our everyday lives. I think it was a great way for us to start growing and developing further relationships as well. Another thing that our group works on is developing the parent partnership plan for the Alliance that will impact all the current focus areas of the Alliance's work. It was a great opportunity for us in the fall to actually start looking at the strategic plan and looking at different action items. And when the actual Alliance meeting was happening, they set up tables in kind of a round group fashion. And instead of it being all us parent members at one table and Alliance members at other tables, we were all blended and interconnected, and we could move from table to table and talk and share ideas. And it was like you wouldn't be able to walk into that room and identify who were parent leaders, who were Alliance members. We were all just a group that was passionate about the work that we have ahead. If I could have the next slide. We also like to develop our partnerships with the Children's Trust Fund directors, and this is something that we're really starting to dive into deeper, with looking at how programs are being funded, policies that are happening, and strategies of how we can strengthen families and communities. It's starting to be little opportunities where we're starting to harness the talents that our parent leaders have and figuring out ways that we can use the work that they're doing to help each other, so that way we're not always reinventing the wheel. It gives us a great way to start having great conversations, and one of the ways that we do that is with a Facebook page. And if we have different projects or things, we'll reach out to them and say, hey, I have this project I'm working on here in New York. Does anybody have any ideas or any experience? And then we can stay connected throughout the year and not just have that one opportunity when we're face-to-face. We also are trying to develop the parent partnership recommendations for the trust funds. It's hard to know how to identify a parent leader, and we really want to help trust funds to understand what does that look like, what does that mean, and help them to be able to see a lot of the shining stars that they have that they might not have even realized how they could tap into yet. If I could have the next slide. This is probably one of my favorite pictures from our time together this fall. We had a special celebration, and after that celebration, we asked that everybody join on this musical staircase in the Science Museum. And what I love about this picture is that we're all blended. We're all together. It's not just a picture of the parent partners. It's not just a member of the Alliance. It's all of us together, all of us happy, all of us really celebrating the success of the work that has been done in the past and looking forward to the promising future that lays ahead. If I could have the next slide. I think this slide is by far my absolute favorite picture, and I love it because of the hand. My husband calls it the 5-finger thingy, but it has come to be so symbolic and so important in my everyday work, because I knew about the protective factors from just doing the community cafe work that I do in New York, but I really got to know and understand and develop a greater appreciation for them when I did the Train the Trainers training. And from that training, this slide was shown to me, and for some reason, like anytime I can share it, I do, just because I think of how often we use our hands. And when you think about the 5 protective factors, it's our everyday, it's our everyday moments. And fortunately for us, the AMPPC was able to go through the online training, which was 14 hours of just breaking it up over several months of tapping into what is social emotional competence of children? What does it mean to have parental resilience? What are social connections? And then after we learned, we got to talk about it on our monthly calls. It was a powerful way for us to make sure that when we're speaking this language and we're using these ideas, that we're working on them together and collaboratively. Additionally, 4 of our members are certified trainers, and many of us are leading community cafes and using the protective factors in this way. And then we had an exciting opportunity when we were in St. Paul to do video testimonies and share about how the protective factors were coming to life in our everyday lives. If I could have the next slide. And so to wrap up my portion, I'd like to just share this picture with you and have you think about all that's going on in it. I really say that I'm on that main water source that's coming down on the side when I'm working with the Alliance. A majority of my time is spent there. However, I'm also really heavily involved in that stream. That's my local community. That's the community cafe work I'm doing across New York State, where I get to train other communities what it is to do a community cafe and help them to launch their own and empower their communities. I also love the idea that the protective factors that I've learned so much about are helping to shape a play space that was an idea originating from the community cafes I held. It's that water that's going and it's carving the stones, and that's exactly what the protective factors are doing in the work that I'm doing. It's also having community cafes at my local elementary school. There's no better way to bring parents together and have everybody just take off their hats with the teachers and the administrators and work for a common goal together. And so when we're doing that, we're shaping everything around the protective factors, just like the water here is shaping the rocks. And what I love most is that no matter what level I'm working at, whether it's national, state, or local, it's all for the common goal of strengthening families, which is represented by the pooling water at the end. And just as the hard rocks can be reshaped by the water, lives for families can be shaped by the tools and resources we provide. There's nothing concrete and permanent, and there's always hope for a brighter tomorrow. And on that note, I'm going to introduce one of my fellow members, Melissa Perry from the great state of Tennessee. And she is the Parent Leadership Coordinator for Prevent Child Abuse and has so much knowledge and so much passion, and it's such an honor to be able to present her next.
Oh, thank you so much, Kara. That was really sweet. I enjoy working with Kara a lot, and with the Alliance and Martha and the BPNN and Meryl. And I just first want to say thank you all so much for letting me come on here today and share my experience with the Alliance and the great work that we've been doing. And I'm going to share a little bit about how the work that I've been doing and implementing the work that I do with the AMPPC and on more of a community and statewide level, and embedding that work in the state of Tennessee, and then also incorporating it onto the national level as well. So if you'll do the next slide, please. And then the next one. Or I'm sorry, go back. Sorry about that. If you can go back to that one. Okay, so how the AMPPC takes what we learn to the national level and then down to the state and the community level. Some of the work that I do includes leading my own Prevent Child Abuse Tennessee statewide leadership team. And one of the ways that I've been able to utilize my training through the AMPPC is, like Kara and Martha had talked about before, through doing the Strengthening Families Protective Factors, becoming a trainer for that, I've been able to get my fellow team members that are all across my state as part of our parent leadership team. We've been able to go through step by step the online training program, which is really great, a really great tool, since we can't all meet together. And I bring this up because since you're trying to do start a national team, it's a great resource to be able to use when you can use the national training for the protective factors, because it's something that you all can do step by step with each other and to go through and to really learn valuable information. The next thing that we've been doing and working on is implementing the protective factors and a lot of community cafe work that we've done, and we've done that across the state and doing over 14 community cafes at different early Head Start and Head Start centers. And like I said, we've implemented the protective factors training that we've learned, and not only myself, but the other parent leaders have been able to take what they've learned, and I go with various leaders, and we are able to teach other parents at the Head Start centers. Another thing that we've been able to do is I've been able to take training materials from the multiple webinars and training opportunities that from different annual, and take it to annual workshops and presentations that I've done throughout the state, including the Connecting for Children's Justice Conference and the Early Childhood Teaching for Tennessee, where I go and I talk to the different early childhood education teachers on the importance of protective factors. But in addition to that, providing a parent voice at our local CAB and state advisory board meetings, and then empowering and encouraging other parent leaders to advocate for their children, that's been a key goal as well. And some of the other important information, using a lot of the important information that I've taken away as being a member of the AMPPC. In addition, I've utilized the strengths of other AMPPC members, such as Kara, and I've been able to invite her on to facilitate webinars during, we have monthly membership, parent leadership meetings for our regular parent leaders, and then we have quarterly webinars that are for our statewide networks with our CABs, and I've been able to have Kara, who was fantastic. She was able to come on and give a voice to a lot of the wonderful advocacy work and the very in-depth cafe work that she had done in New York, and was really able to bring a lively discussion to the state of Tennessee and a lot of the other networks that became very more interested in what she was doing, and really I feel helped kick off the momentum that we saw in this past year with so many of our cafes that popped up all across the state. So I really attribute a lot of that to Kara and networking with fellow AMPPC members and being able to utilize their knowledge. And like I said, I see that as a huge way of how at a state level I've been able to, utilize other members from being a member at the on a national level with the Alliance. Next slide, please. And you can see right here the Alliance resources to help implement a protective factors approach. Over 400 Alliance certified trainers are now delivering face-to-face training and participating in a national learning community. And currently, almost 15,000 participants are utilizing the online training, which the online training is amazing. There's a sounding board on there for people to ask questions and answer questions, and it's just a fantastic resource for the trainers to use. We grounding in this strengthening families approach, child welfare, home visiting, public health, mental health, parents, higher education, including others interested in supporting and strengthening families, child abuse and neglect prevention, early child care, and education and family support. You can see both the websites there for the in-person courses and the online training courses, and I know that we'll be sending out that information as well, along with our contact information, with Martha's contact information for anyone who's interested in getting some more information on upcoming in-person courses. And like I said, the online training courses have been phenomenal in helping build our parent leadership team. And also, I think Kara touched on it a little bit, before we had our meeting last year in, Oklahoma City, our entire Alliance team, we went through the online training together, where each one of us did the protective factors training. And so it was amazing. It was great to go through it on an individual level, but especially as a group to go through each one of those courses. Next slide, please. Oh, diverse learning opportunities to meet your needs, sorry. There we go. Advice for starting a national parent team. This is just, these are just a few things that I personally suggest from my own experience in developing a team, and also some collective knowledge from Martha and from some of our other parent leaders when we talked about some advice for starting a national parent team. First and foremost, we really suggest having a mission statement, knowing what your goal is and coming up with a mission statement, because parents and other people, they're going to ask what it's for, what you're doing, why. And so you want to be able to clearly and with just, a 6 or 7 word sentence be able to tell them what it's for. So you need a strategic plan, and you want to gather input from the current people that are involved, from other leadership. If you have a board, you want to be able to get that input from a board. You want to be able to also ask, if you have funders, get that information from funders. If not, get it from get some information or insight from potential funders and any other governing structure. You want to just be, ask and get information as far as, what kind of plan you're looking to make. You want to make sure that you're getting input from these other possible participants. Also, it's very important when you're having a parent team, a national parent team, that it's parent-led. I can't tell you how important it is that as much as possible to have it parent-led. But once again, it's important that if it's parent-led, you're going to need some guidelines for the parents that are specific and that's precise, and so that when you hand it out to them, they're able to quickly understand and go over and really grasp what it is being a parent leader means. And it does take time to do all of these things, but it's well worth it. And it's trial and error, and it takes a while, but it is very, very worth it in the end. And it's organic and it's ongoing. With our own team, with the Alliance, and with my statewide team, it's ongoing, it's changing, but it's a beautiful thing, and we come so far from where we were 6-7 years ago. Lastly, I would say that, let's see, make sure that you have an onboarding process because of the changes that you'll go through. And as you get bigger, you will want to make sure that you're open for changes. Next slide. And that's it. There's our contact information, and I think that I'm giving it back to Martha.
Thank you, Melissa and Kara both. I would like to just say that it is one of the most joyful things in my job is working with the Alliance National Parent Partnership Council, and they are so full of good experience and wisdom, and are absolutely a very valuable asset to all the work that we do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha.
Let's see, were we going to have any questions or any other comments?
We're gonna open it up for some question and answer. So, Barb, do you have anything in the queue? And if anybody has a question that's online, they can lift their hand. I think Barb has to put the hands back out there, and we'll just listen to some questions.
We have one question so far, is child welfare considered a strength?
Martha?
I'm not sure I understand that question completely, but I think that as far as if you're thinking child welfare in the big extent, yes, of course we want that a child have the best possible outcomes that can happen for a child. And if you're talking about a system itself, the child welfare system, Meryl and the VPN Council are going to speak more to our work with the child welfare system in a moment. But yes, everything that we do focuses on helping children to have their optimal development and helping families to be strong so that they can support that. I wanted to share, when both Melissa and Kara were talking about the online training, I want you to be sure that you know that is on our website, on the Alliance website, and it's free of charge. So there's 14 hours of really fine training opportunities that are free of charge to anyone who wants to get on and take advantage of that.
So this is Sandra, and I'm sorry I can't raise my hand, so you can just let me know when I can ask my question.
Go ahead, Sandra.
So my question, and I wanted to say thank you to Martha, Kara, and Melissa, is how do you initiate a statewide advocacy around the protective factors? And I think, Kara, you said you're working in the state. But how do you do that, or how did you do that? How did you begin that?
So this is Kat. For us in New York, we started it where we had some money that could fund getting Robin Higa, who is also connected with the National Alliance, to come to New York, and she facilitated 2 in-person trainings for the community cafes, and she does an overview of the protective factors. After she did that, we then kind of watched and let the communities have minimal support for us to kind of get them going, because we really wanted it to be something that was community-led and community-driven. So we drafted a report about how those, initially we had 14 sites going, and then after that we have done several other additional trainings as people have requested them, and just have continued sharing it out. In terms of bringing it into the schools, it was just something that, again, after I did the in-person training, the protective factors just resonated with me really powerfully, and I was like, schools already do a lot in terms of trying to highlight what is good and what is needed for families, and I said, what better way than to do it by identify these 5 protective factors, give them a name that's good for our community and that our community would know, and try to bring our community together, meaning we have grandparents who are picking kids up. They should be sitting at the table and having the conversation with us just as much as the mothers or dads who might be working, or even have the extended family come and be a part of it, because they're a part of the child's life. And I think that's what the training does, and just the understanding of the protective factors is, it's not about necessarily everything's rosy and great. It's about changing your lens of, yes, there's things that are not working, but even when everything's falling apart, there's always some glimmer of hope or some positive, and it's helping you to find that. And so we do that within the school with doing the community cafes, and we're looking to try to do something more with the protective factors and having the staff actually become more familiar with them and identify them.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, thank you. If there aren't any other questions,
No, I have a few more. I have a few.
You have a few more.
So someone
Okay,
was wondering
go ahead.
if Melissa could write down her tips for creating a parent advisory group.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you do that, I'm assuming, Roxy, that we can make that available.
Yeah, we can send it out.
Yeah, we could probably send it out with the evaluation. If
She
Melissa,
could also just type it into the chat box.
Yeah, they could do that too.
okay. Yeah,
And
no,
you do have
there's
her contact person, so her contact, so you could send her an email directly.
how do our parents become ANPPC members?
And that I don't want to go into the logistics that much, because we have 2 other groups to hear from. So what I'd like you to do is to take that question and email it to Martha Rader, and she'll get back to you.
And which link, one more, which link has the 14 hours of training?
That is the online training with the Alliance, and it's the slide that had all the circles on it.
Okay.
I can tell you that if you go to our website at ctfalliance.org and look under training opportunities, you can find it very easily.
Training. Okay, I'm writing this down so I can put it in also in the chat box.
Well, thank you. You guys have got so much wisdom, and I know there's so much more to be learned on this webinar. So if you want to put up the bios, Barb, for, did we get everybody's questions, or did I shorten anybody?
You kind of shortened, but we'll get those questions answered.
Okay. Just for the sake of time, that's all.
Right.
We want lots of networking to happen after this call, or after this webinar.
Okay.
So our next presenters are from the Birth Parent National Network, And we'll be hearing from Muriel Levine, and Muriel is a senior consultant with the National Alliance of Children's Trust Fund. Someone is not on mute, so if you didn't remute yourself after talking on the phone, yeah, thank you so much. And so she leads several projects, including the Birth Parent National Network and the Casey Family Birth Parent Advisory Committee. Muriel has been in the field for over 30 years and has done incredible work around preventing child abuse, family support, and out-of-home placement. The parents we'll hear from today is Ms. Toni Miner, and Toni is a mother of 3 children and a legal guardian to 2 grandchildren. Toni struggled with drug addiction during the time her kids were growing up, but today she is 14 years sober. She has taken that experience and shared it on a lot of different levels. She currently works with the Family Support Partner and helps other families by providing mentoring support and the connections they need when they're in the child welfare system. Sandra, is it Kellett?
Sandra Collette.
Collette, thank you so much, is a single mom who raised 2 sons on her own in New York City. And through that experience, she had a lot of firsthand experiences and being able to search for help or get help. Today, Sandra is the Executive Director of the Child Welfare Organizing Project in New York City, a major parent-led advocacy organization that works to improve the child welfare system. So we are just very happy to have the 3 of you on, and whoever is going to start can just go ahead.
I am going to start, and this is Meryl, and thank you so much, Roxy, for the lovely introduction. And I want to say thank you to Martha and Kara and also Melissa, who really represented well our wonderful partnerships that occur through all of the great work that the Alliance does. And I'm very proud to be a part of the Alliance and to be working with all these great parents. They've really done a great job in terms of helping to bring the parent voice to the table, particularly throughout our Alliance work, and it's great. But today, and if you could take me to the next slide, we are going to talk about the Birth Parent National Network, and the key areas that we want to cover for you are talking about how we began. This is a little bit of a different kind of parent-led group. It is a national one in scope, and we're going to give you more background about our beginning, how we, the kinds of members that we have included. Our focus is really heavily on getting parents engaged in policy work at the national, state, and local levels, and we'll talk more about that, how we're structured, how we work collaboratively with all of the members of our network, the kinds of supports that we as the Alliance provide to the network, and then we will wrap up with more in terms of advice around starting a national parent team. So with that said, I'd like to go to the next slide and give you a little bit of background. Toni and Sandra will be interweaving their comments and thoughts as we move forward. But I wanted to kind of share with you a little bit more. The Alliance, as you heard, has already a strong ANPPC with lots of great parent voices. And we had an opportunity about 3 years ago when Casey Family Programs approached the Alliance and really talked with us around the idea of creating a structure, a national structure in which we could incorporate the parent voice more into policy work. And what that really came from was responding to issues around the fact that more and more children were being placed in foster care. And Casey was very, very focused around wanting to reduce the numbers of children that were placed in foster care. It was logical in terms of the Alliance being involved in this kind of work, since we had a lot of experience in terms of working with parents, and it seemed to be a good meld because we were focused heavily on prevention, and we were going to be melding more in terms of getting involved around working with families across the spectrum, including parents that were involved with the child welfare system. So I'm hoping that I will be responding to that particular question that came up earlier on in the discussion. But in order to begin this network, we decided to do a convening, and we did a small convening with about 40 people, which included organizations that were doing policy type of work, that were engaging parents in their work, as well as parents. We had parents and organizations come together and brainstorm around the idea of developing a birth parent national network and how all of that would happen. We actually brainstormed all of the ideas around developing this kind of network. What would it look like? What would its purpose be? What would its vision be? And we'll be moving on and sharing with you a lot of those kinds of pieces that did develop. But we eventually did do an actual official launch of the Birth Parent National Network in May of 2013. And in the next few slides, I'm going to share with you exactly what that network is looking like. So if you could move to the next slide, that would be great. Our purpose, really through this convening that we held with these 40 individuals, we brainstormed, and actually Sandra Collette, who was one of our presenters today, was part of that beginning of discussing and promoting the idea of what the Birth Parent Network would be all about. And so our purposes really came about in terms of wanting to promote birth parents as leaders and strategic partners in policy work to help influence changes in child welfare policies and practices. We wanted to help educate policymakers around the need to look at the funding and the way child welfare funding was being allocated out, and primarily the funding was focused on more around supporting children that were in foster care placement, and we wanted to help parents begin to share with policymakers what kinds of services would be helpful to families if they were able to support the families in keeping their children within their homes. So we wanted to look at front-end services more around the prevention avenue. So that was really a lot of the discussion that happened in the initial convening. Next slide, please. Our vision, we came up with a vision, and again, some of these tips that Melissa mentioned earlier on around how do you start up a group, we came up with a vision. And our vision was to build and maintain a national network that would be composed not only of birth parents, but organizations that would also be able to support the birth parents as strategic partners. So, and we were looking at it being support both in making reforms and building more prevention, and as well as strengthening the child welfare system policies and practices. So our goals were really twofold in this vision. One was to really develop a network that was composed of parents and organizations and help in terms of building this partnership between staff and birth parents. And the second portion of it was to help educate the policymakers around aligning, relooking at child welfare goals and funding. And if you could move to the next slide, our goals really and what we came up with, and these are really what the network focuses in on, it's ways to promote and support parents as partners in prevention and child welfare system reform strategies. We are focused on helping parents be able to effectively communicate messages to policymakers, developing resources to train the birth parents and organizations to help communicate these messages, and then working together as a cohesive and unified national voice to really begin to inform policy and practice. So those are our primary goals. I'm going to kind of go fairly quickly now from this point forward because I really want to give an opportunity for Sandra and Tony to talk. And I'm going to turn it to Tony right now so she can kind of share with you who is involved in the network. And Tony, take it away.
Thank you, Meryl. And I need to apologize in advance if you hear any background noise while I'm speaking. My kids are home today on a snow day, so I'm working from home. So I just want to apologize in advance if you guys happen to hear anything. So the BPN membership is made up of both birth parents and also organizations who are really interested in doing policy work to help make improvements to the child welfare system and other systems that affect children and families. Birth parents involved in this network really include parents who were previously involved with or at risk of becoming involved with the child welfare system, willing to engage in policy work and share their perspective with policymakers and other stakeholders, and to have the ability to communicate in English and work with computers and email, that are committed to achieving the Casey Family Program's 2020 goal of safely reducing the number of children in foster care by 50% by the year 2020. And, and if birth parents are interested in doing speaking engagements, they must be able to periodically travel. We're always looking to expand the pool of birth parents that are interested in speaking to policymakers. Sandra and myself went to Capitol Hill, I want to say October of 2015, and went and spoke with the Senate Finance Committee and the Ways and Means Committee, so both in the House and in the Senate. Next slide, please. And like I said, the BPNN includes organizations, and we are so interested in recruiting organizations that are committed to supporting parents as strategic partners in system reforms, so that we can all really learn from each other. I have found in my experiences that working with the organizations as a parent that's been through the systems really helps to educate them as well as myself. Next slide, please. So currently, the BPNN membership, I want to say it is actually made up of 101 birth parents was the last number that I actually received from Merrill Levine, and 42 organizations. And we do continue to recruit new members with organizations and birth parents on an ongoing basis. We look to the membership to help us with ongoing recruitment efforts. We have a flyer that we widely distribute that I believe is being revamped right at this moment. And the flyer is posted on the BPNN website, and you can download it, and you can either send it to others electronically or print off copies. The more members we have, the stronger our collective voice will be and the greater our impact in improving systems, services, and supports for families. The graphic on this slide shows the demographic breakout of all members except for 3 who did not provide their ethnicity. The BPNN has strong and diverse representation of families throughout the U.S. We will continue to focus on increasing the ethnic diversity of the network through our recruitment efforts. In addition, future recruitment efforts will focus on reaching out to parents in states where we do not currently have any BPNN parent members. The following states are Arizona, Delaware, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Maryland, Maine, Mississippi, Montana, North Carolina, North Dakota, Nebraska, New Mexico, Nevada, Oklahoma, Rhode Island, South Dakota, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. So as you can see, we have strong representation, but we still need more. So if anybody knows of anyone, or if you're in any of these states, please do join us. Next slide, please. We ask all interested parents and organizations to complete an online membership application. It was something that I actually had to do myself, and the applications are reviewed to determine if the applicant best meets the needs for the BPNN membership criteria. If the applicant meets the criteria, then a written letter of acceptance is sent, and then the member is added to the email list distribution list, and we invite them to the next orientation session. If there are questions relating to whether the BPNN would be an appropriate fit, we will follow up by telephone and talk with the individual to gather additional information in order to make a final decision. Next slide, please. Oh, actually, I'm going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Sandra, now.
Hi, thank you, Tony. And just again, I'd like to say welcome to everyone for attending this webinar with us. So just a little bit about the Alliance and how it works with parents who have experience with the child welfare system, or who are in risk of being involved with the child welfare system. We hope to shape, and we have been shaping, a state and a national policy practice for families who have been affected by the child welfare system. We often receive requests from policymakers, media, and others seeking the perspective of parents who are involved with the child welfare system. The Alliance along with Casey, collaborate and maintain a pool of parents through the membership database who are available upon request to particularly speak to the issue of policies and practice and to inform policy and practice about child welfare and any other issues as it relates to families and children and youth, you know, who are part of families. All the requests are taken from the Alliance, and those parents speak to policymakers and stakeholders, and they're all coordinated through the Alliance, again, with collaboration with Casey. We offer, the Alliance offers many supports to help parents in their response to speaking engagement with policymakers. So there is data support. There is a stipend provided for travel and for meals. And of course, without saying that all parents in preparation for these speaking engagements and informing policymakers about the policies that are affecting children and families are prepared, and I use the term prep, but not prep, you'll receive information that pertains to whatever policies you're going to go speak on. And I must reiterate that we are not lobbying policymakers, but we are informing them and giving them information to help them with the policy decisions that they will be making. So again, just to reiterate that we are not lobbying. This is a very important endeavor for parents who have been affected by the child protection system to make sure that our voices are heard as it pertains to policies. Next slide, please. So the parent's voice and its perspective is critical in shaping any type of reform in the child welfare system. There are ways in which you can do this. You can share your experience with the policymakers. You can serve as a trusted resource to your city, state, and federal policymakers. And you can call attention to the experience within your own community. You can also inform a network about development and opportunities for parent engagement. I will give you an example, and it's really fresh in my mind because Denise, one of our colleagues, we were actually in Washington, and we had went and we had spoke to the Ways and Means Committee, and Denise was given the opportunity before we actually left the room. I think there was a call made, and she had the opportunity to sit on a panel with her senator, Senator Grassley, and talk about how decisions that he has made for the state and some actual decisions that were coming up were going to impact and affect families in the child welfare system and or at risk of being in the child welfare system. So I think it goes without saying how very important being a speaker, speaking to leaders regarding policies and practice, how very important this is. There is, just to go back, there's a minimum expectation, and that is your willingness to work with the Alliance, complete a membership questionnaire with your contact information, and also maintaining and completing an engagement activity report. That is really important because that shows how the parents, the engagement, and the work that's being done across all jurisdictions. And that's extremely important as we develop and expand this national voice of parents at the federal level. And, you know, I can't reiterate enough about the support that you do receive in order to prepare. I think I've been involved now for probably 3 years, and it probably took me 3.5 years to get ready to be engaged and to go and inform policymakers and to go and be myself and not feel like I'm in a place or not in a place of my lead, right? That really is a place where the voice of the people should be, and you should be really comfortable in being in that space, sharing information that can help to shape policies for the benefit of children and families. And, you know, the Alliance, along with Casey, they really do that really well. So it does come with some work. And I can't say at times it has not been challenging. But what I do know is that at every challenge, the support were there. Next slide, please. So I'll talk to you just a little bit about the opportunities of the Birth Parent National Network. We get a unique opportunity to represent hundreds, if not thousands, of parents about views and best practice and policies for parents across the country. We participate in and facilitate webinars, and we can have anywhere. We have people from all across the country who actually participate in those webinars. We did our very first webinar this past November, and I will tell you that it's not as though we don't want to be there in person, but because of the large stretch that we do have, unfortunately, it's not possible to get together in person. But we had a very, very engaging and active virtual convening. We had, I can tell you the speakers that we had were just like off the chart. It was enormous. We had Dr. Sanders. We had world-renowned speakers. We had a politician, Raina Moran, who spoke. So, you know, and not to forget, we had parents ourselves. We were a part of the virtual convening and the experts in that conversation as well. So there is plenty of opportunity for the BP, and if you decide to be involved, and the hope is that you will be involved. There's an enormous amount of benefit to being involved and helping to organize other parents and organizations around the activities that we are engaged in. So next slide, please.
Sandra, before
Yes,
they go to the next slide, I just wanted to add, this is Meryl, just to point out that the slide before is Tony with her son presenting at a Board of Trustees meeting. So I thought that was really, really a great opportunity for you know, policymakers and key leaders to hear from parents, and it included her child as well. So I thought it was very exciting.
No, thank you, Meryl. And there is another parent also that's speaking to a policy maker. He's also a part of the BPNN as well. So you have it in print of what the opportunities are to engage your policymakers. We had exciting activities. Again, we spoke at the White House Forum as a roundtable discussion on prevention. We've given testimony. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we want to go to the next slide for you. Yeah, sorry.
Am I backing up? I'm sorry.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay. So we've given testimony to the Commission to Eliminate Abuse and Neglect Fatalities. My very good colleague, Tony, and many others had the opportunity to partake in that the presentation, either in person in some states that it was in, and or send written testimony in preparation for that commission. So either way, you had the opportunity to give input. National judicial engagement, so parent roundtable, parents contingent in Washington, D.C. Might I add that I believe, and we are responsible along with the Alliance and Casey, that now nationally they are looking to have more of a parent's voice. And that's why it's so important that we have more parents getting involved so that we can have a wider range of parents who can go and who can speak to these issues and who are willing to not only go to Washington, but also inform and educate in their respective jurisdictions. So, you know, it doesn't mean that you always have to go to Washington or that's the only place that you would have the opportunity to impact what's happening in child welfare. So I mentioned the numerous things, the activities that we do. I can go on and on and on, and there are just so many more that are availing themselves to the parents in bringing the voice about child protection.
I just would like to say you have about 2 or 3 minutes left.
Okay, I'll go to the next slide, please.
So Sandra,
and I think the next slide will cover. Okay. We're back to Merrill.
Yeah, and I'm going to just let the rest of the audience know that I won't go through the rest of these slides. We talked a lot about them. I just want to share with you the structure and let you know that we are a virtual organization, so we do not meet in person, and the virtual convening was one of the great opportunities where, again, we did more intensive kind of training of our members. And we are parent-led, and we do have a parent council as part of our structure. And so we pretty much communicate by webinar, email, Facebook, website, and we meet every other month for meetings. And the parent council meets every other month for meetings and sets the agenda. So I wanted to wind down and take us. So we did do all these slides so people could feel free to go back and review them later on. I know that Tony and Sandra covered a lot of the information. The Alliance does provide a lot of the support. We are the coordinator of the Birth Parent National Network. Our next meeting is coming up on February 11th. If you're interested and want to join in, we would certainly welcome having you become a part of that. And we just wanted to share with you a little bit more from Tony and Sandra. So I'm going to take you all the way to slide 26, if you could go, and then people can read on their own. We did pretty much a lot of slides just so you'd have the information afterwards. But there is a lot of information that talks more. And so, Roxy, how much more time do we have? Is it just like 2 or 3 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'd like to be able to get some question and answers in too for you guys.
Okay. So I think that if anything, we probably would like to have Tony and Sandra maybe talk a little bit more in terms of any tips that they have as far as advice to doing a parent leadership team, and turning it back over to the two of you. And Tony, you might want to kind of share that a little bit more, just more in terms of advice, since the people might have questions.
So this is Sandra. Go ahead. Okay, so this is Sandra. And, I have to be honest with you and tell you that I don't have a whole lot of advice, and that's really the truth, right? The advice that I can give you is to want to do it, and knowing that if you want to be involved, if you want to make a difference, that not to hesitate, because the supports are there to help you make a difference in your communities, in your jurisdictions around child welfare issues. And I think for me, it was just about knowing that those supports are there, which gave me really, the strength and the will and the courage to just be involved and want to make a difference. And so I will say to you that the Alliance was there in that way, and it continues to be there for me, even in the role that I am also an executive director of a small community-based organization, but to allow me to continue to make a difference in the lives of children and families in my community across the country.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tony?
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. I just wanted to add, that you really need to be seen and be heard and be diligent in the work that you do. Make sure the parents are included in the development. Hold an information meeting to recruit parents to ensure that they're aware of the purpose of the group that you're trying to bring together. Let them know the time commitment, the role expectation, that support is provided in lots of different ways. And that there's trainings and orientation, and that you can be coached and guided. I am very honored to be on the BPNN Parent Council and work very, very closely with the Alliance, and they have more than supported me in the things that I have needed so that I can try to create a program in Jefferson County in Colorado where I am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We'll entertain a couple minutes of questions. Barb, do we have any questions out there in the box?
Not yet, and you can also raise your hand. I'm trying to go to the last. There we go.
Well, because we are, oh, go ahead.
No questions yet and no hands. So feel free anytime. You can put your questions in the question box at any time, and I'll be able to get them from there.
Thank you, Barb. Well, maybe you'll have questions that will be to the other trainers after our next presentation. So who I would like to introduce you to next is an organization that as I was looking at different organizations that were really working with low-income families, I came across community organizing and family issues. And so the presenters today are going to talk to you about what they've been doing for the past several years. We have Tracy Okami Crowder from Chicago, and Tracy's a senior organizer at Community Organizing and Family Issues in Chicago. She's been with COFI for 10 years, organizing parents around local issues as well as working with them to advocate for citywide and statewide policy changes. And Rosilia Gerler is a parent, and she's a mother of 2 daughters, both currently in college. She's a longtime activist in the Southside Chicago Englewood community. She's the co-chair of PowerPAC, which is Parents Organized to Win, Educate, and Renew Policy Action Council. So I will, she's also a peer trainer and has traveled around the country providing training for COFI, and I will let them tell you all about what they're doing.
Thanks, Roxy. This is Tracy, starting out. I want to let you know that I'm going to give a little bit of background about COFI, and Rosalia is going to do kind of the bulk of the presentation around some of the details of the parent work and some of the structures, and then we'll kind of wrap up. So we are a 20-year-old organization. Last December we had a big celebration, which we're very excited about. And over those 20 years, we have been working with parents to lift up their voice around the issues and changes that they want to make to create positive, family-focused communities. And we've been working with parents to not only do that in their own communities, but also to work on policies at city, state, and national level. So I feel like I'm in good company with some of the organizations, the other 2 organizations who are on the webinar, that we are really looking at some policy change. And we do that through our leadership development program that we've actually directly impacted and trained 3,400 parents, moms, and grandmoms over those 20 years through what we call the Family-Focused Organizing Model. And also through our Institute for Family-Focused Organizing, we train other organizations in our model to make changes with the parents that they're working with, whether they're somewhere in Illinois or somewhere else in the United States. We have a national training institute. Next slide, please. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about our sort of philosophy and frame the work that we do. So originally, our director, who was the founding director of the organization, she is a community organizer, and she founded the organization after seeing that, for the most part, the people who were considered leaders in community organizing were generally men, and were not, you know, moms and grandmoms, and the issues that were being addressed were not the everyday issues of families. And so she created Kofi with a few beliefs in mind. First, that parents make good community leaders. And so I'm sure I'm probably preaching to the choir on this phone call, but just starting with that assumption when at a time when that was almost unheard of, or just being a parent for many people did not seem to be a criteria for leadership, or people just did not think that parents could make good leaders. We also work from the assumption that leadership starts within, and so, you know, I heard it mentioned before that it took someone 3 years to kind of feel like they were sort of ready to kind of be out and make the change. And so I'll talk a little bit more about the model and how we start small and expand outward. And also day-to-day issues are rooted in public policy systems or practices. So it's not just that, oh, you know, you can't find childcare for your child to get your GED, but, you know, there's forces out there that are, the GED program is just not accessible for parents. And so looking at the ways in which, you know, we both promote personal responsibility in the training, but also people start to look at how some of the challenges and barriers they're experiencing have everything to do with some of the systems. And so we have a 3-phase model. Next slide. Okay, and actually the next slide. Okay. Our model is in 3 phases, starting with phase 1, which is self, family, and team, where we are working with parents to really identify for themselves personal growth goals, things that they want to do and accomplish, and, you know, to move ahead in their lives. Also looking at family goals and improvements that they want to make with their families, and wherever they are, whether we're training in the school or at an early childhood center, what change do they want to work on as a team at that place. Phase 2 really opens their mind to sort of organizing and kind of going outside of their team and where they have been training to embrace the community and to talk to the community, go door knocking, talk to public officials, talk to everyone in the community to figure out how to work together to create a community change. And then our phase 3 is the policy and systems phase, where, again, we're working on citywide, regional, and statewide changes and building parent structures to support those changes. And so PowerPack is in Chicago, our citywide parent leadership group. And parents are also peer trainers who go back. I've heard this mentioned with one of the other organizations, going back and training other parents in the Kofi training to continue to sort of build the movement. So that is kind of the background of the organization, and I am now going to hand it over to Rosalia Grillier, who will take you, again, through the bulk of our presentation.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Again, my name is Rosalia Grillier, but for those of you who don't want to deal with all of that, let's just say Rose. And that fabulous lady you see on your screen right now is me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about really how this kind of works. So our key, if you can go to the next slide, please. We're built on relationship building. We believe that it is the key to the success, whether it be parent to parent, parent to community, or even parent to legislator. We recruit by doing one-on-ones, going door to door, building relationships within the communities. Parents recruit other parents because it's relatable, because there's a small trust factor that we build upon. We work in teams of parents within the schools, within early learning centers, within social services, within the community itself, whether it be meetings or town hall. Then we also have developed throughout those different trainings parent action teams who help provide support for each other. We have a tool that is within our training called the Web of Support, where you not only identify who's in the community, but you think outside the box of what role they could play in helping you reach those goals that you set as a parent or within your family or even as a team or community or citywide. Organizers have one-on-one relationships with their parent leaders as well as a support factor, helping to guide whatever the parents have developed as the goals that they want to approach or work on or the change that they want to see within the community. If we can go to the next slide. And the premise of this is that parents are in the lead. Within PowerPack, and I am one of the chairs of PowerPack, Parents Organize to Win, Educate and Renew Policy Action Council. It's parent-led. It's grassroots. Now, we are predominantly African American and Latinas, parents and grandparents, but we have a little sprinkle of fathers in there, but everyone is welcome. It's not a closed door because it takes all of us to work together to make the change that we want to see. But parents choose their issues, the issues that they want to work on, the change that they want to see. And collaboratively with staff, we work out strategies, organizing steps, and help fundraise for some of the campaigns and the work that we've determined is important to our families and communities. Let me just highlight a couple of our campaigns. Our elementary justice campaign, for example, parents are working on the school to prison pipeline elimination. And we've made locally within the city so many changes to the code of conduct. One being an example, no tolerance, zero tolerance has been removed from that actual student code of conduct, and we've lowered the amount of suspensions. Now, PowerPack has quarterly meetings where across the city we all come together on the different action priorities. If you can move to the next slide. We actually have 5 campaigns, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but they've all had major impact within the city and also somewhat in the state, and we're moving national, and my dream is soon we'll be worldwide. But over time, we've created an executive board and a leadership council. Now, they actually make recommendations to the body, and the body votes on the different priorities and the action priorities that we'll move forward on and what that time frame and really what that looks like. But PowerPack's purpose is created by the parents. The parents are the leaders. We know what's going on in our community. We know what's working and what's not working, and we come to the table and we talk about and prioritize what those initiatives will be, and as we move forward to set those goals. Parents are at the realm. Parents have made some amazing changes in this city, in this state, help support some national changes, and so the key is that parents are very important. And basically, when you're talking about systems, whether it be early learning, elementary, or high school, parents are the key because it's our children. I'm going to pass the mic back to Tracy, who's going to take us through the next part.
Okay. Excuse me. I want to talk a little bit about the numbers. So first, a little bit about the support and how we're funded. For most of our community organizing work, we get foundation support. But a lot of the victories that parents have won have created what we call parent-initiated projects, which are projects that are geared to help make things better for families. For instance, the Parent Ambassador program that deals with the Head Start parents and reaching out to parents of 3- and 4-year-olds to try to get them to enroll in the Head Start program. That is a program that is now 9 years old, and that is funded through the government. Likewise, an extension of the elementary justice campaign that Rosalia just talked about, we do parent peace centers in schools in Chicago. So these are spaces where parents are working with children to give them some conflict resolution skills and kind of help them stay out of trouble. And so those are kind of the projects that are victories, results of victories that the parents, of campaigns that the parents have worked on. And we also do, through our institute, people favorable training and consultations around community organizing. And I think Rose is going to talk now about starting a national network and give a couple of tips.
Okay, thank you. So parents in the city of Chicago have done some amazing things. We've eliminated the predatory payroll cards that were having folks paid to just receive their pay, and in conjunction with Lisa Madigan, that was an initiative. And then through Stepping Out of Poverty, we had initiatives that did match savings accounts where parents were able to get financial literacy training and then have a match savings component of over $3,000 total. And other initiatives, I could go on and on. But as a result of that work, it intrigued some of the folks downstate and across the state, and we started to work with those parents as well. And so then it sparked some interest nationally. And so we started a national parent team that is in the process of formulating. And if you can see in that slide, parents came together in Bloomington, and we brainstormed and had a wonderful time and found out if folks really wanted to work together across the country, and the answer was predominantly yes. And so we've been on calls with that initiative, really pulling it together, and they've made some great strides so far that I'm so proud of. And for me, this is more than exciting because I came to this organization on the door of death. They told me I had 6 months to live. I weighed over 486 pounds. I was in a wheelchair. So if you can imagine, I was at a very desperate, desolate, hopeless place. And through this work, through Kofi, it has helped me visualize myself as a leader. Over 200 and some pounds down later, I have traveled across this country to say to parents that you matter, you have a voice, and I believe it, and they've proven to me that it works, and I've proven it to myself. So if you want to know more about us, we're located in Chicago at 1436. If you can go to that next slide, West Randolph on the 4th floor. You can reach us at 312-226-5141. Or you can look us up on the web and see some details about the amazing work we've done, www.kofionline.org, or shoot us an email and give us some tips, ideas, or accolades at kofionline.org. And I love you guys immensely. Look forward to future conversations.
Okay.
Wow, thank you. Tim, or did you have anything else to say, Tracy? We're gonna. Well, I don't know about y'all, but I'm a little blown away now by the things that are possible with parents.
So am I. I can't raise my hand, but I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So do we have some questions? We want to talk about some. What we want to talk about next is kind of a wrap-up and what we've heard, and I think we all wouldn't be on this call if we didn't really know the power that parents can do in their communities.
I believe, this is Barb, I believe we have one, this is for Kofi. What are some of the components to the workshops? I'm wondering if there are any trainings, if so, what type?
Yeah, actually we do. Tracy kind of touched on it a little bit. We start out with our step family and teens because sometimes parents are in situations where they haven't really seen themselves as leaders, and in order to help someone else, you've got to really help yourself first. So they start to set goals for themselves, and as they accomplish that, they're on fire to make change in their family, and then initially within the schools or the community. And we have several tools within that first training that really empowers parents to not only see themselves as leaders, but to walk in those roles.
And we do have, I tried to mention a little bit through our Institute for Family Focus Organizing, we host national trainings here. In fact, today is the first day of our Phase 2 Community Outreach and Action training. So we're actually in the midst of one of those. But you can get more information about that on our website or reach out to us to get the schedule for that.
We have another one from Dawn. What is the audience makeup? How many parents, practitioners, etc.?
Well, it really varies. We go from community to community. Usually I would say we start with somewhere between 15 to 20 parents per session. But this is a versatile city, so it's really versatile. And then we've also done training to other organizations and other partners for that fact on some of the things, or how to engage the parents that you work with. So it's really multifaceted, and we pride ourselves in it meeting the needs of that audience.
Okay, and I also want to add, so we've got about 300-400 parents that we work with throughout the state at various levels. We're constantly training more and bringing more into the fold. But when you talk about the partnerships and other stakeholders, one thing recently in the past couple of years, we've been working more closely with early childhood collaborations. So parents have been sitting at those tables, providing input about some of their experiences and some changes that need to be made. And so we have partners in every issue. There are 4 issue areas. In every issue that parents are working on, there are policy partners as well as state officials and agency partners. So there's not necessarily a number of partners, because it's not like they're necessarily like a member of COFI or PowerPack, but it's more that the parents themselves make up the network, and that their goal or the work that they're doing is to have conversation with and impact and influence the decisions that are made by our partners, or what we actually call champions in the case of people who are state officials and agency heads. If that helps at all.
At this
I can talk about.
Let me go one more time. I don't see any more questions at this time. However, this was one of the statements. Parents Anonymous also has a parent leadership team and national parent leadership team that could have really added some input to this call. But we can't. Time is limited, and I really appreciate that message. So I just wanted to put that out there. So we got as many as we could on the call.
Yeah. Well, and if we think about the activities of parents in the education system and the disability community, I mean, we have a huge contingency, working across this country to advocate for our kids and for change. If I could say from Minnesota how we've used COFI is in their phase 1, which is self, family, and team. It's where we really see the mutual self-help, which fits into the Circle of Parents model, in that in order for people to move to the next phase of life with whatever they choose to do, being able to really understand yourself, going deep about what are the sort of things you want to see for yourself and your family. And it's a repetition. Once you learn those strategies around defining your own self-life mission and vision and goals, that same process follows out into your family and then into the community. So that's what I like about, what we like about Kofi in Minnesota, is the repetition and the process of self-realization.
And I'll also add one more component of the training, just in terms of the philosophy, is that kind of everyone is a leader, and there's, you know, collective leadership, so everyone has something to offer, and figuring out what that is from your own perspective and what you can contribute, and how to open yourself to be supported by and to accept other people's contributions. That's also a big part of our training.
And how we can support that.
Exactly.
Well, I think a theme that I've heard throughout the presentations is, number one, relationships, 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 right? Whether they're with parents or with organizations, that all of your initiatives have been parent-led, that you know, the real emerging issues that come out are really led by the parents, that most of your efforts have been supported by an entity of some kind, an organization, or someone that really understands, like the Alliance and like Kofi, understands and really is bought in to the fact that resources need to go in and training needs to go in to build the parent leadership capacity. And I think those are some of the themes that I saw, and that, you know, there is no limit to what we can do as individuals and as parents who care about our kids.
Worldwide.
Well, there you go. I love that, Rosalie. Yeah. The problem is, when we take a look at that, we may not be so good in the United States as some of the other countries that are industrial and what they do with parent leave and that sort of thing. But, yeah. So does anybody want to make any last comments before we close?
Before you do that,
Okay.
and I apologize, Dawn, she meant in the audience now on the webinar, how many are practitioners and how many are parents. Sorry, Dawn.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how if we are able to clarify that. We had 42 people register.
We had 47 people actually that were on the call, including our staff. When we do the evaluation, Dawn, we will ask that question, and basically we just wanted to ask, are you a parent or are you a staff from an organization? And some people might be both, so we're going to be asking that in the evaluation. So anybody want to do some epiphanies, or what they saw, or what they might take back? We thank you for your participation. We know that there are a lot of efforts going on, and however you can learn from each other and network with each other. If anyone is interested specifically in helping us with our National Circle of Parents, that would be great to know that. I know that one of the parent presenters from Tennessee was involved with Carla Snodgrass, who was also involved in our Circle of Parents. And so, you know, we can look at maybe revisiting people who have been involved before and seeing how we can rebuild a great team moving forward.
Question, will there be a certificate for participation today?
We can do that if you would like. Yeah, we can send out a certificate of participation with the evaluation.
Okay, let's just go ahead and do that for everyone, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And a comment, it's exciting to have all the representation of parent-led organizations being acknowledged. You're absolutely right.
Right. Right. So either today or tomorrow you'll be getting a Survey Monkey that will just have a few questions on it. If we could get together and do some tips, I think somebody had asked Carla for some tips, right? Who was it? Melissa Perry. Maybe Melissa, if you can send your tips to me, then we can also get them out to folks. And we will send you a certificate of participation. We thank you very much for spending your time with us today and all the great work that you guys all do.
If you can see the chat box, the tips were put in the chat box.
Oh, they were? Okay.
Yep, and we won't close this webinar out right away, so you'll have a chance to.
Okay. Can you cut and paste them, Barb, so we can put them in the...
Oh, yes, we can do that.
Yeah, we can cut and paste them too and put them in the evaluation.
Can we get a mission statement? I'm just going to go ahead and keep reading.
Okay.
Can we get a mission statement for each of the organizations that presented?
Sure. I think they're embedded in the PowerPoints, but you know, we can tweak them out and send them to you.
Okay, that would have been part of the handouts too that that you received.
Mm-hmm. We will send out the mission and contact information for all the presenters.
Lori's thanking everyone for their great work. Great presentation, and thank you for your great work.
Great. Thank you, Lori. All right. Well, I think that brings us 5 minutes before the end, so I don't think anybody ever argues with being, you know, done 5 minutes early. At least not us in Minnesota when we got 10 inches of snow coming at us. So thank you so much, and hopefully lots of networking will go on from here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for participating.
Yep, thank you. You all did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Sandra. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.